Hey guys, I hope you are doing well. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new here, my name is Mpho. I'm a CA and I like to chat all things business, sometimes careers, and sometimes a little bit about life. Today we are doing exactly that. In this video, I will be reflecting on my 7 years as a working person and letting you guys in on some of the mistakes that I have made along the way. The reason for doing that is really simple, so that you don't have to make the same mistakes, so that you can draw lessons from some of the mistakes that I have had. Now, if you think you could be into that, do stick around. And if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. We are trying to grow this channel, and also consider liking and sharing this video with someone that you'd like to join a community that speaks about careers in business and random life things. And I've been working for 7 years. I started in 2015 when I started my articles, and it's been fun. Okay, it's been a lot of fun, it's been a lot of growing, but for the most of us, if you're in South Africa, chances are you're the first person in your family to actually work in a corporate setting. So there wasn't necessarily anyone that you could learn from that could give you some of the tips that I'm about to share in this video. And that's really the reason I am making videos such as this, so that you can learn from some of my mistakes and experiences, and that you could have a smoother corporate journey. So here's 6 mistakes that I made at the beginning of my career. The one mistake that isn't here, that is actually maybe the biggest of them all, arguably, is negotiating for your salary. Now, that's a whole video on its own. I'm not necessarily going to touch into it now, but do note that I'm not going to be chatting about negotiating salaries, but it is actually one of the mistakes that I believe I made. So number 1 is not asking for help enough times. Now, I'm one of those people who think they're pretty smart, okay? I will try do something, and what ended up happening is I would work late hours in the beginning of my career because I didn't necessarily know how to ask somebody else for help. I also do believe it was an insecurity that I had, because I believed if I asked somebody for help, it could come across as I am not smart enough. So what I would rather do actually is sleep at around 2 a.m. reading audit methodology. Now, it worked out well, because what ended up happening in the audit firm I was in is that I became the go-to person for technical knowledge, standards and all of that amongst my peers and even leaders in the teams that I was working in. But in all honesty, reflecting on it, the reason I was working so late and the reason what I came across as knowing was because I spent so much time doing things that I could have gotten help from a team member or even a senior. And hear me right, I'm not saying don't be curious, and I'm not saying don't take initiative of learning things on your own, but I think do it from the right space. Do it because you're curious. Don't do it because your insecurity, and in this case my insecurity was, if I ask for help they'll think I'm not smart enough. Don't do it because you've got insecurities around how you're perceived, but be curious because you're naturally curious, and also ask for help because that also builds relationships between you and your teammates. Secondly, the mistake that I'm still making even now is thinking that my work will speak for itself. Now, girl, work doesn't have a mouth. You have a mouth, and you should be speaking to your work and for your work. I'm not saying produce sub-quality work. That's not what I'm saying. Produce good quality work. At the same time, be willing to speak to the work that you've done. Be willing to present the work that you've done. And also be willing to even ask questions that came about as a result of the work that you're doing. Asking questions from your work doesn't make you less smart or less capable of the job that you're doing. If anything, you could be coming with a way of working that your organization or your team wasn't thinking of. So your work is not going to speak. Your work doesn't have a mouth. You need to speak to your work. And as Black ladies especially, understand how our upbringing has resulted in us feeling like if we speak about our work, we could be bragging or show offy. But you do need to present your work if you want to be remembered or paid attention to in corporate. And I do also think we need to do the work internally in terms of why we're seeing speaking to the work and speaking about the work we've done as being braggy, because it isn't bragging. You're just presenting something that you've done. The same way that you present yourself in the report that you write, present yourself verbally. So your work won't speak. Your work does not have a mouth. That's when you go. Mistake number 3 that I made in my corporate career is not saying no. Now, I know when you're starting out, you actually don't necessarily have the power to say no to certain works. But what I realized is that somehow along the way, we gain that power and we don't realize it. We're not aware that we actually now have the power to say no to certain works that isn't aligned to our career prospects and where we want to take our career, basically. So I felt me saying yes to every single opportunity, to staying up late, to every single engagement, meant that I was more dedicated when I was actually just wearing myself out. I wasn't spending as much time with my kids and my family, and it wasn't necessarily doing much for my career if it wasn't going in the direction that I was trying to take my career. So it's okay to say no. Recognize when you finally have that power, and be more deliberate in the projects that you want to take on or you want to be involved in the engagements that you want to work on. Like I said, it's not always easy in the beginning, but be aware when that power dimension finally happens where you actually can say, nah, I don't want to work on this, it doesn't make sense for me. Be willing and be brave to say that. Which brings me to point number 4. You are in control of your career, and I didn't know that. So my mistake was thinking, I am in this job, it is paying whatever it's paying, and I'm happy with whatever it's paying. It's giving me access to XYZ opportunities, and I am grateful. So a lot of times I found myself operating from a space of I am grateful. Bring in a leader that actually likes you and that takes you under their wings, and you feel like, I can't let them down. I need to be here because this person is regarding me so highly, or this person has taken the time to mentor me, right? But you're actually in charge. Your career is in your hands for the most part. I know there's corporate politics and all of that, but you are in control for the most part. So if you're staying in a team, if you're staying in an organization, it must be because it makes sense for where your career is going. It can't be because Mrs. So-and-so has taken a liking on you, or the head of department or whoever has taken a liking on you, so you can't disappoint them. The one way I really learned that was when I felt conflicted about leaving certain teams, and only for a few months or so later for the leaders of those teams to actually leave organizations even. So I was like, I can't leave this team because I don't want to disappoint this person, but that person was able to leave the organization completely. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? You're in charge of your career, and just as much as they're in charge of their career. So you're in the steering wheel, steer your career in the direction that you wanted to go. Mistake number 5 was keeping so much to myself. Now, I'm not an extroverted person, so being in social settings take work, okay? I must work on it. And what I found was, especially at the beginning of my career, I was willing to go to work events. Also, again, if I felt like it, I wasn't necessarily doing my part in actually maintaining relationships outside of work environments, maybe the boardroom, and then also maybe even outside of work organized functions. So if you can attend all of those social events that your company or your team decides to go to, make an effort to actually get to know your teammates. I'm not saying be best friends, but actually I have seen from the people that I did articles with, that great friendships can come out of that environment if you nurture them and if you do a little bit more than just keeping to yourself. And also there is this saying, especially as you go up and you progress in your career, that people promote people that they actually like, and you need to get yourself known with your peers and with your managers and with the heads of departments or whatever is possible in the organizations that you work in. Mistake number 6, which is also the last one, is wanting to change the organizations that I've worked with. So not taking the time to learn about that environment, but coming in and being like, yeah, XYZ 1 2 3 is wrong. Now, hear me, no one is saying you need to conform to the environments that you find yourself in, but you need to take the time to recognize why those environments have worked. So if you're in banking like I am right now and they work a certain way, you need to learn their way of working, and then you need to ask yourself, why has that way worked? What I also like to say is that corporate is made up of tiny little humans, and you're one of them. So you need to bring yourself in there, yes, fully with the way that you're operating and with your values, with your strengths and all of that. Don't allow yourself to be changed a lot in corporate, because also they appointed you because you are you. So you being in corporate actually get to contribute to the corporate structure. So don't hide that. Don't shy away from that. Recognize the good things that may have contributed to the success of the organization. Bring yourself to that organization with all of your ideas and your new ways of thinking and how you think things should be, and marry all of that. The things that don't work, yes, deal with them, but embrace also the things about about that organization that you've chosen that are working. What I also want to point out here is you chose that company. You had an interview, you decided to go interview for it, and you were like, okay, this is where I want to work. At the same time, they chose you. So you also need to bring yourself, as they have chosen you, to the organization that you also wanted to work with. There is a book by Carice Anderson. It's called Intelligence Isn't Enough, and she touches on some of the things that as Black girls we actually should know before we start working. This is one point that she also mentions about learning about the corporate environment and bringing ourselves into it. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, please share it with someone that you think it'll help, and let me know, do you want more career videos? I actually enjoy making them, so if you want more career related videos, let me know. Each of these points could have been a masterclass on their own, and if that's the sort of direction that you need to be taking, I am happy. So thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, bye.